Welcome to WHRO's Weekly Edition. I'm Jordan Christie.
And I'm Barry Graham.
We highlight the week's news and stories happening all over Hampton Roads. In this week's program, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement arrested over 4,000 immigrants in Virginia through July this year. It's the highest number since 2012.
Not sure where Suffolk ends and Chesapeake begins? Well, the two cities are hosting town halls this month as they attempt to clear up those confusing border issues.
The Nature Conservancy is preserving hundreds of thousands of acres to help local economies through environmental stewardship. A big effort focuses on Virginia's coal country.
We have a really big vision for conserving land across the entire Appalachian mountain range, one of the most important areas on Earth to conserve biodiversity.
It's WHRO's Weekly Edition. Housing advocates, along with state and local officials, have pointed to faith groups as a potential partner in addressing affordable housing. Now, the effort to allow faith-based organizations to build on undeveloped land has reached Congress. WHRO's Ryan Murphy has more.
The bill from U.S. Senator Mark Warner is dubbed the Yes in God's Backyard Act, a play on the not in my backyard attitude which often resists residential development. The bill would provide technical assistance and grants to help faith-based organizations develop their undeveloped property into affordable housing. Cities across the state have been exploring the idea for a while. Sharon Schaaf with Virginia Beach's Office of Housing and Neighborhood Preservation says housing and faith are a pairing that makes sense.
They have a mission that's in alignment with providing this type of service to the community.
In Virginia and across the nation, population growth has outpaced housing development, and that lack of supply has helped drive up costs. Virginia lawmakers took a swing at a state measure similar to Warner's bill earlier this year. That effort didn't go anywhere. Ryan Murphy, WHRO News.
U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement arrested nearly 4,300 immigrants in Virginia between January and July this year. That's according to a new analysis by the Virginia Center for Investigative Journalism at WHRO. It's the highest number of ICE arrests in the state since at least 2012. WHRO's Kunle Falai reports.
ICE enforcement has targeted thousands of immigrants in Virginia under President Donald Trump's crackdown. The number of arrests in the first 7 months of the year is nearly triple the amount in all of 2024. Daily arrests in the state are nearly 4 times higher than a year ago. Most of the people targeted were from Central and South America. The majority had no criminal records. Enforcement has also affected asylum cases in Virginia's 3 immigration courts. Denials of asylum requests rose to nearly 80% in July. A year ago, the courts denied less than 50% of cases. Kunle Falai, the Virginia Center for Investigative Journalism at WHRO.
A student in Virginia Beach tested positive for measles in late August. WHRO's health reporter Yi-Ching Wang has more.
The Virginia Beach school system says a student at Trentwood Elementary was diagnosed with measles on August 26, the second day of school. Classes will continue under normal operations for those who are vaccinated. Those who rode the bus with the sick student have been notified. School officials are working to identify who else may have been in contact. Meredith Robinson, the Vaccine Preventable Disease Program Coordinator at Virginia Beach Health Department, says measles is easily spread in the air.
For the public, right now, it just is a reminder to be aware of your vaccine status. And if you are unvaccinated, consider speaking to your healthcare provider about getting vaccinated.
Unvaccinated Trentwood students, including those with exemptions, are prohibited from attending school until September 16th. Yi-Ching Wang, WHRO News.
The new school year is underway, highlighting again that some teachers are struggling to make ends meet. WVTF's Michael Pope reports on numbers in Virginia.
Teachers in Virginia are generally paid below the national average, although their salaries are growing faster than in other states. That's according to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics compiled by the Virginia Public Access Project. Here's Carol Bauer at the Virginia Education Association.
Teacher pay in Virginia actually ranks in the bottom half, and certainly that's not where our per capita income is at.
Recent years have seen increased investment in teacher salaries, and yet they are still paid more in most other states. That's a problem, says Levi Gorin at the Commonwealth Institute.
If your child has in front of their classroom a long-term substitute instead of a trained and experienced professional, it matters for how they're going to do in their future educational attainment. So we have to attract talented young adults to the teaching field, and we need to keep them there after they've entered it. And we can only do that if we raise pay.
Members of the General Assembly are likely to consider a bill next year that would eventually get Virginia to be close to the national average, but not all at once. Because the gap is so large, the budget proposal is to take it one step at a time. I'm Michael Pope.
Still ahead on Weekly Edition, it's looking like Virginia's data centers also could get hit with higher energy bills from Dominion Energy. But first,
Suffolk and Chesapeake are hosting town halls this month as they work to clear up the border between the cities. WHRO's Nick McNamara reports.
City officials say the proposed boundary won't affect school jurisdictions, but would see Chesapeake transfer 12 parcels of undeveloped land to Suffolk. Pamela Brandy is a longtime resident and Civic League president for Pewsville, a historically black neighborhood straddling the boundary. For her, it raises past issues with polling places, incorrect utility tax bills, and her home's deed.
I went over to the city of Suffolk courthouse and asked for my record and everything. Come to find out, my property is in the city of Suffolk. But how did my property get moved? I purchased it on the Chesapeake side. It was filed in the Chesapeake side.
Brandy eventually received a letter from the city assessor confirming her Chesapeake residency, but the issues have left her skeptical about the city's priorities.
Until we see legal documents that says this is final and it will not be changed again, then we'll say it's finished.
The next meeting is September 29th at Bennett's Creek Recreation Center in Suffolk. Nick McNamara, WHRO News.
The Hampton VA maintained its 4-star rating in a new survey. WHRO military reporter Steve Walsh has the story.
The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services has rated the Hampton VA 4 out of 5 stars. Hampton has updated its procedures. Providers hold daily meetings for at-risk patients, says Interim Executive Director Michael Harper. He says the ratings reflect the overall excellent care the local VA provides. Hampton is one of the fastest-growing VA regions in the country. The local VA has maintained the above-average rating since VA facilities were included in the survey in 2023. The data was mainly collected in 2024. Roughly 77% of VA hospitals nationwide receive a 4-star rating. Steve Walsh, WHRO News.
Residential customers aren't the only ones who could get higher bills from Dominion Energy. Data centers in Virginia could too. The State Corporation Commission started public hearings last week on proposed rate increases for Dominion customers. WHRO's Michelle Hankerson reports Dominion's request includes a new rate just for data centers.
Data centers use a huge amount of power and are one of the major drivers behind statewide energy infrastructure demand. Dominion wants to create a new rate class for customers who use more than 25 megawatts of power and a load factor of more than 75% a month. That would comprise most data centers. But it would also capture some big retail businesses like grocery stores and military bases, according to reporting by the Virginia Mercury. Dominion says it based the proposed rate class on recommendations from the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission. A decision on rates isn't expected until the end of the year. Michelle Hankerson, WHRO News.
Osprey are sentinel species. Scientists look at them for warning signs of problems in the environment that could harm other species, including humans. This summer, scientists concerned with a continuing decline of osprey chicks in the Chesapeake Bay are crunching data from Maryland to Virginia to try and pinpoint why. Pamela D'Angelo reports for partner station WVTF.
The Chesapeake Bay is considered the nation's largest breeding ground for osprey. Osprey chicks usually occupy just about every nest stand built by homeowners, even one at the Virginia Institute of Marine Science. But not this year. There's a growing concern among the bird's admirers and scientists over a steep decline in the chicks. Scientists have been monitoring osprey nests throughout the bay.
We have been seeing a lot of nest failures due to starvation.
Brian Watts is director of the Center for Conservation Biology at the College of William and Mary. Wrapping up field work, he and biologist Bart Paxton take their small skiff out on the Rappahannock River near Urbana. They check on some of the 46 nests that had fledglings. Only 4 were successful. It's a snapshot of something wrong.
So a number of bird species move with the food. Osprey aren't like that. When an osprey pair form a territory, they will come back to that area year after year. Where there's not enough fish to go around, then the population will come into balance with that and decline.
He's seeing that decline in southern portions of the bay, and the average number of chicks in a nest has gone from 2 to 1.
We go to a nest and there may be 3 young chicks. We come back the next time, there may be 2 or 1, and we come back the next time and there's none.
It's a steamy day on the Rappahannock. The water below the boat measures 90 degrees Fahrenheit. As they motor from one nest to another, they pass a tiny school of juvenile menhaden, or as anglers say, bait balls, churning and flashing just below the surface. Menhaden migrate in and out of the Chesapeake Bay. High in nutritious oil, they're targeted by osprey to fatten chicks. And they're the mainstay of a commercial fleet of 10 ships from Reedville, Virginia that process them. Last year, Watts took some heat for saying they were responsible for diminishing the fish stocks. Osprey chicks have their greatest food demand from mid-May through June, but menhaden are coming into the bay later.
Last year, the menhaden didn't come in until early June, and we had a spike in laying, which is the latest we've ever recorded. They don't do well, the ones that nest late. They're vulnerable to the excessive heats that we get in July and August.
2 days later, in the upper part of the bay, Barnett Ratner and Dan Day, scientists with the U.S. Geological Survey, are with 2 undergraduate students checking osprey nests along the Chester River near Kent Island, Maryland. This is year 2 of a collaboration with Watts, adding 100 nests on this river. Last year, it was just the Choptank River.
80% of the nests either didn't get started or had eggs or young and failed. The Choptank River in 2025 is no better than it was in 2024.
Ratner's team is also looking at the species of fish ospreys are catching. Some homeowners with osprey stands have let them put up game cameras. Like Watts, Ratner is seeing nest failure, but location is important.
We have pretty fair evidence that what we're seeing, at least in parts of the bay, is related to food availability. In other parts of the bay, particularly up the tributaries, there really isn't evidence that that is a serious problem. Depends where you are in the bay, where one sees the problems, and what is there for the ospreys to capture, to eat, and to feed to their young.
The Chester River looks fairly successful. Osprey nests in fresher waters where birds don't rely on menhaden, like the upper Potomac in Washington, D.C., seem to do well. But another osprey survey this summer in New Jersey shows a high number of nest failures at the coast. They, too, blame the lack of menhaden. And though more data needs to be collected, one thing scientists agree on: ospreys are telling us something is wrong. From the Chesapeake Bay, I'm Pamela D'Angelo.
Chesapeake Regional Healthcare hosted a recruitment brunch this week. It's the latest effort to fill dozens of empty jobs. WHO's health reporter Yi-Chung Wang has more.
Neurological nursing candidates shared eggs, sausage, and hash browns and toured Chesapeake Regional's newly built critical care tower at the Brunch and Brainwaves event. After all that, they held one-on-one interviews. Kimberly Green, Director of Acute Care Services, says different ways to connect with candidates is key to addressing the nurse shortage.
We just want to bring people into our hospital, show them what we have to offer to our community and to our patients, and let them get to know us on a very personal level. I think that's the best way to recruit.
Burnout fueled by the pandemic drove many nurses to leave medicine. The resultant staff shortages have contributed to even more burnout. Yi-Chung Wang, WHO News.
Former Representative Abigail Spanberger leads Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears in Virginia's gubernatorial race, according to a poll released by Virginia Commonwealth University on Tuesday. 49% of registered voters backed Spanberger, while 40% supported Earle-Sears. In the state's lieutenant governor's race, Democratic State Senator Ghazla Hashmi leads Republican John Reed by 4 points, while former Delegate Jay Jones leads incumbent Republican Attorney General Jason Miyares by 6 points. Voters identified the rising cost of living, women's reproductive rights, immigration, and education as the top issues.
The number of unauthorized immigrants in Virginia increased by 50,000 people from 2022 to 2023, according to new data by the Pew Research Center. That's part of an estimated 14 million unauthorized immigrants living in the United States that year. WHRO's Michelle Hankerson reports.
According to Pew's estimates, most of Virginia's unauthorized immigrants are from El Salvador. About a third have been in the country for 5 years or less. Unauthorized encompasses a number of immigration statuses and doesn't always mean someone came to the U.S. illegally. People overstay temporary visas, for example, or eligibility requirements for the program they use to enter the country legally can change. The Pew Research Center emphasizes its numbers are an estimate. Researchers say in 2025, it's likely the number of unauthorized immigrants is falling due to the Trump administration's immigration policies. Michelle Hankerson, WHRO News.
The national nonprofit The Nature Conservancy is halfway through an ambitious plan to preserve hundreds of thousands of acres of land and help local economies through environmental stewardship. In Virginia's coal country, the effort is taking $130 million, and officials hope it will result in curbing some effects of climate change and lifting Appalachia. Elizabeth McGowan reports for the Virginia Center for Investigative Journalism at WHRO.
Thank you to all the ones that's here that has been here before, and also thank you to the ones that's never been here.
Leon Boyd, clad in overalls and standing in the bed of a pickup, welcomes volunteers to Elk Habitat Restoration Day. He spearheaded the reintroduction of elk into Buchanan County. Since 2019, the Nature Conservancy has owned this vast stretch of forest and mine-scarred land in Virginia's coal country. Supporting a healthy elk population is one small part of the Conservancy's $130 million plan to rejuvenate Appalachian communities and enrich the environment. The initiative is called the Cumberland Forest Project. Boyd, a native of Grundy, Virginia, is grateful for the partnership.
And the history, elk was here, years ago, over 100 years ago, and then they'd just been hunted to extinction. So that was a blessing for us, that it ended up with somebody like a Nature Conservancy rather than somebody that wanted to come in here and build a bunch of houses or develop an area that we was using for wildlife.
TNC, the nation's largest conservation group, saw the undertaking this way. Climate change is an enormous challenge. Meeting that challenge required an equally enormous and almost unprecedented conservation enterprise. Brad Krebs of the Conservancy explains his organization's approach while touring project land in Wise County.
The Cumberland Forest Project is 253,000 acres in total, which is bigger than Shenandoah National Park. To be able to acquire and manage land at that scale has pushed us to try to develop new models for how we can fund conservation work. And so in this case, the Cumberland Forest Project is what's called an impact investment model, very new approach. We have a really big vision for conserving land across the entire Appalachian mountain range, one of the most important areas on Earth to conserve biodiversity and also demonstrate strategies to deal with the challenge of climate change. We have to go bigger to be successful at the scale of the Appalachians.
Taylor Cole of Lexington, Virginia-based Conservation Partners sees TNC's investment strategy as the future for protecting large swaths of biological diversity.
In this world where we have a tendency to attack problems in the micro, here's a Nature Conservancy willing to try to address a problem in the macro. This is such an extraordinary example of people understanding that there is a return on an investment that maybe is not measured exclusively by dollar signs or net financial return. There are returns that are extraordinarily valuable in their own right. And are people willing to invest in order to secure those other returns? The answer to that question, particularly in this extraordinary example, is yes.
But any bold endeavor has skeptics. Wally Smith is a University of Virginia at Wise biologist and vice president of the Clinch Coalition, an environmental group based in Southwest Virginia. Smith worries about public access to the forest and whether TNC's project helps the right communities.
When you have any absentee landowner, whether it's the Nature Conservancy or a coal company or a timber outfit that owns most of the land in the town and they're not based in that town, that opens up at least the risk for inequities because, the local residents are unable to use that land. They can't, use it to farm. They can't own it. They can't use it for other forms of economic development. So the entire town itself and the region kind of becomes dependent upon that absentee landowner.
Krebs says the Conservancy is addressing those concerns.
We're doing it to improve and protect the forests in Southwest Virginia. We're doing it to work with local communities to support their economic diversification around outdoor recreation and forestry and renewable energy. And we're doing it to create a legacy for the future where through this project we will create permanent public access to many of these lands that will allow people to enjoy them far into the future.
Cole, probably the most important thing to appreciate first off is the boundary. You can see the pin flags I've got out here.
In late March, Link Elmore, TNC's restoration coordinator, guided a team of professional tree planters uphill to 21 bare acres along Virginia's Stonecoal Creek. There, workers planted more than 12,000 hardwood tree seedlings, mostly oaks. TNC reforested 700 acres in the Cumberland Forest of Tennessee and Kentucky last year.
There's been no new mining on this spot that we're working on today since 2004. It's going to take decades, but we're going to get a hardwood forest out of it. We're sequestering carbon by the tree growth, but in the end, we're growing hardwood trees in a place where hardwood trees want to be.
In roughly 5 years, the Conservancy will sell the Cumberland Forest. TNC's own ambitious goals, coupled with the Trump administration's attempts to dismantle environmental protections, loom over the project's success.
We need it to be successful, right? We need to demonstrate through this project that we can prove a business case for investing in nature at this kind of scale. We can demonstrate tangible, lasting conservation outcomes through the project. And we can, make meaningful connections and contributions to local community.
There's a group of bulls in here, 17, 18 bulls. Some of them's lost their antlers, some of them still has antlers, and it's kind of in the shedding season right now. This project is larger than I ever meant for it to be. I said, it's got meaning to it, I said, because it can give folks something money can't buy. And that's just some peace sometimes. Wildlife has a way of, whether it's birds, elk, deer, turkey, it doesn't matter. It just has a way to calm you.
Elizabeth McGowan, with reporting by Christopher Tyree, Virginia Center for Investigative Journalism at WHRO.
You've been listening to WHRO's Weekly Edition. We had help today from WHRO's Ryan Murphy, Steve Walsh, Nick McNamara, Yi-Ching Wang, and Michelle Hankerson. Kunle Falayi and Elizabeth McGowan with the Virginia Center for Investigative Journalism, and WVTF's Michael Pope and Pamela D'Angelo. Also Connor Worley, who produced today's show.
A reminder that you can always catch full episodes on the Weekly Edition podcast feed. You can also get your news updates at WHRO.org and the WHRO Reports podcast feed. For all of us at WHRO and WHRV, I'm Jordan Christie.
And I'm Barry Graham. Have a great weekend.